Welcome to Haven Today at Christmas time. Winter storm wallops Midwest, read one headline as millions of Thanksgiving travelers made their way home. And in Chicagoland, it was a record-breaking snowstorm for November. Pretty to look at, but not from O'Hare and Midway airports. Not everyone loves the snow. But around Christmas time, and now we can officially call it that, a lot of people at least like the idea of snow as it gently falls outside, a warm fire crackling in the fireplace, a steaming mug of hot cocoa, and nowhere to be except precisely where you are. Storms like that are nice if you have a shelter, if you're in a home. For some, that's a real and urgent problem, and yet the storms of life are no respecter of persons. They come for us all, and there is only one place of safety. His name is Jesus, and he is the shelter in a time of storm. Well, it is Christmas time, and we're officially in the Advent season. I'm David Wollen, sharing the great story that's all about Jesus, who is with us in the storms of life. And we're in a series called Who Jesus Came For. There are a lot of true ways to answer that question biblically, and they don't contradict themselves, of course, but the Bible does paint a panorama around Jesus, showing us how very different the God of heaven is compared to how the world or even his people sometimes have perceived him. We always need fresh eyes to see Jesus again, and sometimes it's through looking through another set of eyes that this can happen. Today, I'm looking forward to sharing with you a conversation with Dallas Jenkins, the director of The Chosen. At this point, that's what he's known for. But Dallas has tackled what others might have thought of as a side project, a Christmas film. But for him, it was more than that.
This is a Christmas classic, but unlike most Christmas classics, is Jesus-focused. It's similar to like the Peanuts cartoon classic. But most Christmas classics have nothing to do with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I just said I have to do it.
It's a fun program today. We're talking about what, now for my family, is a Christmas classic. No parts to fast forward through, no parts to cringe at, no sentimental secularism. No, this film is about Jesus and who he came for, which we see through a family of troublemaking kids, the Herdmans, and the Christmas pageant everyone thought they would ruin, but instead it became the best Christmas pageant ever. It's a well-named film, and it'll warm your heart. It'll make you laugh. Honestly, there isn't much like this out there in the realm of classic Christmas movies, which is why I cannot recommend this highly enough for your home, as gifts for your loved ones. It's a story that takes you into not just the heart of Christmas, but the heart of God for those who are lost, who are outsiders, who have been disregarded and discarded by the world, and although messy, are precious in the eyes of God, who is in the business of redeeming and remaking messy people into the image of Christ. And we praise him for that. The best Christmas pageant ever on DVD is our thank you for your gift of support to this ministry of Haven Today. And there are just 4 weeks between now and the end of 2025. This is a time when we feel the financial pressure here at Haven. A lot rides on what happens in this relatively small span of time because we need giving to dramatically increase, as it usually does this time of year, but that's only because friends like you make a Christmas gift to partner with Haven and help us to bring Jesus into the storms of everyday life. Thank you in advance. And when you give, please be sure to request your DVD copy of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Call us now at 865-HAVEN, 865-HAVEN, or online at haventoday.org, haventoday.org.
Don't miss out. The annual Christmas pageant tickets are on sale now.
They're advertising it on TV now?
The pageant is an especially big deal this year. It's the 75th anniversary.
I want to give special mention to Grace for volunteering to direct it.
You did what?
Oh no, it's going to be the best Christmas pageant ever.
That's a pageant I'd like to see.
This is Haven Today. I'm David Wollen, and joining us now, Dallas Jenkins, at this point best known as the creator and director of the Chosen series, but also the director of the best Christmas pageant ever. Good to have you with us, Dallas.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it.
Well, first, I just have to say, I'm amazed that you were even able to fit this into your filming schedule. I know you've been doing ongoing work with the Chosen, different seasons, but you decided to take on the best Christmas pageant ever. What made you decide to do that in the midst of everything else you've got going on?
Well, I have wanted to do the best Christmas pageant ever for 20 years. And so every job that I've had, every situation that I've been in, I've always said to whoever I was going to be working with, at some point, if I'm able to get the rights to do the best Christmas pageant ever, that's going to need to be done, and we're going to need to figure out a way to do it in some way. So one project that once The Chosen took off, my wife and I agreed I would find time to do. We normally wouldn't do that. Where The Chosen in and of itself is extraordinarily overwhelming.
Right.
It's actually caused quite a bit of challenge in our lives, just from everything from spiritual warfare to just the overwhelming nature of trying to keep up with what God's doing with it.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, my wife brought home the book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, for us to read to our kids. And I had read it as a kid, but I'd read it in like public school. I don't know if you remember this, but like if you went to public schools, you'd get those Scholastic catalogs and you could order books to read.
Totally.
And I remember a teacher read it in class once. And so but I didn't remember a whole lot about it. And she says, all right, let's read this to the kids. My kids were really young at the time. So I start reading this book, and pretty quickly, a couple things were clear. Number one, it was very funny, like very witty and charming, like more than I remembered. It was funny for adults too.
Right.
I'm like, this is really good. It's no wonder this is such a huge bestseller and has kind of been around for decades. And then two, I'm like, this is a Jesus story.
It is.
Like, this is an unashamedly explicit Jesus Christmas story. And it's almost like the book and the humor and the style are almost like a Trojan horse. And I get to the last chapter, and it's been funny all along, but I get to the last chapter when they're putting on this Christmas pageant. And the story is already appealing to me because it's about these 6 outsider kids who everyone hates. The first sentence of the book is, the Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. So it's funny, but it's also, as an adult especially, you pick up on some of the things that are sad. They don't have a dad. They're in extreme poverty. They're kind of taking care of themselves. So they're mean, but there's reasons for it. And they hijack the church's town's Christmas pageant, take over all the roles. Everyone thinks it's going to be the worst thing ever. So we get to the last chapter, and I start crying so hard, I can't see the pages. And my kids are like, what is going on with Dad? And Amanda, my wife, goes, give me the book. Let me read it. She starts crying. She can't read anymore. I take it back from her. We're passing the book back and forth while the other one is weeping and trying to recover. And I closed the book and I said, I have to make this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was born for this. The humor, the emotion, the love of Christmas, the outsider status. My wife and I are adoptive parents. We have a lot of adoption in our extended family. The fact that this is a Christmas classic, but unlike most Christmas classics, is Jesus focused. It's similar to like the Peanuts cartoon classic, but most Christmas classics have nothing to do with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I have to do it. And I chased the rights for so long, and I kept being told no. This is a long answer to your question, but it explains why it was so important for us to do it. And I kept being told no because, we have a bigger director involved or a studio involved. And I was not very, prominent and didn't have a whole lot of successes for them to hang their hat on. And so I'd keep checking in, and I put in my calendar, my online calendar, that would pop up once a week, and it just said, pray for pageant. And all it was a reminder of was to pray. Now, I'd love to say that I had a God's will prayer, like, whoever ends up making this movie is up to you. I just wanted to touch the world. I have to admit, I was praying, like, don't let anyone else make this movie. Please reserve it for me. Over the years, it didn't get made, but they would keep taking it to new studios or new directors. And so finally the rights became available again, and I made this impassioned plea again, and they said no. And I was like, it's over. And I went to my wife and I told her, and we were both emotional and sad. And I'm like, I guess it wasn't meant for me. And I go back to my office and I sit down, and literally pops up on the screen, ping, pray for pageant. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I can't get my hopes up. I can't keep pursuing this. And so I moved the cursor to delete it. And I felt this strong, like, don't do that. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I felt like God was just saying, just don't do that. Just keep praying for Pageant. So I'm like, okay, God, I pray that, whatever happens is, your will, blah, blah, blah. And then my wife, Amanda, comes in and she says, you know what? After our conversation, I was praying and kind of crying out to God a little bit. And I felt him saying to me, it's not over yet. And I'm like, dang it. I wish you wouldn't have said that because I'm going to get my hopes up again. So I just continued to pray for Pageant. And then sure enough, a few years ago, I checked in again. And the guy said, oh, funny you're calling. Or funny, I think I texted him and he's like, give me a call. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting.
No kidding.
And he says, a couple weeks ago, my mom reached out and said, have you heard of this show called The Chosen? And he says, yeah, that's interesting. The creator of that show is always bugging me to do the best Christmas pageant ever. And she's like, are you crazy? Of course he's the one who should do best Christmas pageant ever. You better let him do it. You better give him the rights. What's wrong with you? And he's like, so I have to listen to my mom. And so the rights had just become available again. The studio had forgotten to renew or something.
Yeah.
So long story short, I'm talking to you now. And the movie came out in theaters last year and was a great success at the box office and got good reviews on, even the New York Times gave it a positive review.
Yeah.
And so that's why, again, that's a long story, but that's the reason why I said to my team and to my board and our financiers and all that, I'm like, I have to do this movie in between seasons. We have to figure out a way to make this work.
So interesting. Obviously, there's a lot that we don't know, which is known to the Lord alone. But my dad used to tell me growing up, he'd say, David, the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. And I didn't realize how smart and much wisdom that was until much later on, and that applies to almost everything. But I can't help but wonder, Dallas, if the Lord had indeed planted that dream in your heart, but it could be maybe you just weren't ready yet. I mean, you must have learned so much.
Oh, not maybe. Yeah. It's 100%. So many things happened in my life that I look back on it. And I think the project itself, I mean, this is a God story. It is a Jesus story. I think that it deserves a wide audience, and it got one, at least partially because of The Chosen. I think my platform was significantly increased, which gave the movie a lot more gasoline on the fire. Yeah. But also just personally, it took a huge career failure back in 2017 for me to be broken and surrendered. And the things that used to motivate me, my drug of choice was affirmation, narcissism, approval, and legitimacy. Those were the things that I craved, and they were all taken, all the potential success was taken away from me. And I truly surrendered to God. I truly said, okay, it's a long story, but I said, if I never make another movie or TV show, that's okay. I just want to be in your will. Yeah. And I think that's when God said, now you're ready for The Chosen. And maybe even now you're ready for best Christmas pageant ever. And so not only was I a better filmmaker by that point, but I was also spiritually, intellectually ready for what happened with The Chosen, the growth of it, the success of it, where it got to the point where all this success finally came, but I didn't care about it anymore. Yeah. All I cared about was, and I knew not to take credit for it anymore either. And so that was a huge thing. And I think that was required before I could do a story like this.
Oh, good. For your own good. I mean, truly the potential for something like that to become idolatry of your own heart or self-worship, when you get that kind of success, it has a tendency to turn people inward. And it's the kindness of the Lord to break us ahead of time. So we don't have anything to stand on but him. That's great.
So, and I think that makes The Chosen better. And I think it made the best Christmas pageant ever better.
Yeah, totally. And it's just funny. It is a family film. If you could say that. There's kids, there's, like you said it well earlier, there's really, really deep themes. And yet, my 6-year-old can sit on my lap and he just giggles the whole time and loves it. But those themes really, really are deep. And if there is, for any viewer, if there's any part of your own painful past that somewhat intersects this, I mean, this is touching that nerve when you watch it, because it's not a silly film. It's not done in a way that you'd feel like, well, this isn't serious stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's a Jesus story, but it's so lighthearted that there's no real impact.
Right. Yeah. This is meaty. There's
for sure.
There's substance to it.
Yeah, and I give genuinely the credit to the author Barbara Robinson, who's no longer with us, but the original story is so beautiful because it's set in a church, it's set in a community that knows the Christmas story, has done this Christmas pageant every year. It's become so routine, they take the story of the birth of Christ for granted. And they've couched it like a lot of us have in this kind of cute, sweet package. Mary is precious and sweet and pretty, and Joseph is just this solemn guy, and the little baby that just comes in this little nativity scene, and then we see it every year with the shepherds, little kids wearing bathrobes, and it's just it's this routine story that we take for granted, and it's easy as a church and when you're putting on something traditional to say we don't want anyone to come in and ruin this.
I'm sorry, but we're using really big words to talk about a pageant where the kids just have to stand in the same spot they stand in every year.
We take it seriously.
So do I, Mrs. Slocum. That's why I volunteered.
Judging by who you cast as Mary, you apparently don't.
Rebecca, is it possible that as Alice's mom, you have a personal interest in who plays Mary?
The pageant is sacred.
Wait. The pageant is sacred?
Obviously.
It's about community and fundraising
And Mother Mary.
and tradition.
What do you all suggest? That I kick the Herdmans out of the Christmas pageant and keep them out of the church?
Yes.
And the Herdmans take it over. The Herdmans come in, they bully everyone out of the main roles. They're doing it just because they thought there was going to be snacks at the church, and so that's why they're there. And they are legitimately, quote unquote, bad kids. They're mean and all that. But the more that they ask questions about the story because they haven't heard it before. And so
everything's a surprise.
Everything's new. And so they're like, what's with this and what's with that? And the people who know the story so well have taken it for granted are going, wow, that is a good point. And that would have been challenging for Mary and Joseph. And wow, Mary and Joseph were also outsiders and in poverty. And so they start to intersect. And like you mentioned, people who've had church hurt or who have been outsiders or who aren't believers. And part of it is because they don't know the story or they've been rejected by Christians for whatever reason. They can identify with this film. Again, it's still entertaining. It's still funny, whimsical and charming. But the message of that when you are actually in poverty and are an outsider, you might be closer to the heart of God and to an understanding of the Jesus story than those of us who've maybe lived it for so long, have a little bit more privilege, maybe are a little bit more part of the insider community. And I was just so moved, and I'm like, to have a potential Christmas classic that can go on the shelf with movies like Elf and Home Alone and Christmas Story.
That's right.
Are unashamedly, it points you towards the story of Jesus.
It points you to Jesus, and anything that's in it that makes you cringe for the right reasons. You know, it's not glorifying something that is wrong or that would be displeasing to the Lord. It's just showing you the reality, and then the story of the movie. And really, there's gospel centrality in the way this happens. It is redeemed. For me, just watching the film for the first time, there's this scene where the kids are in a library, which is a whole new experience for them, and they're sitting around this table. And
the Herdman kids, the bad kids, have just been cast in the play and pageant, and now they're researching their roles.
Right, and Imogene, the oldest, is clearly the driver here. The younger kids are, they're not necessarily seeing the vision, but she is. And this is when, for me, watching it just clicked into a different gear. And which is, I'm sure, by design from the creative standpoint. But for me, that was when the meta narrative, the through line of the film suddenly got a little bit clearer, because she said, don't you understand? This is our opportunity just for one night for our lives to be different. That we get to become somebody different. People that matter. And she's really talking about getting into character. And I suddenly thought, oh, wow. Like, it's not just the story. Like, that is the gospel, that you do get to be changed fundamentally, going from who you were and despaired of ever being different from. And we are transformed into being somebody completely different, reshaped in the image of something, the most beautiful, wonderful, and lovely thing that is. And I thought, they didn't tell it, they showed it.
I'd had plenty of homework assignments where I had to go to the library. But I don't think I was ever as interested in anything as Imogene was in the Christmas story.
Do you hear me? The shepherds were just minding their business, and boom!
Yeah, I get it. We're wise men, though.
You just walk up with a box of junk. Why are you making us do all this? Ollie, what's that movie you like with the whale? Land Ho! You think that captain guy in Land Ho just made up how to build a raft?
No way.
That's right. He had to read up.
I thought we were doing this for cake.
About the cake, too. But it's also like we get to make a movie. In the movies we watch, the actress gets to... All the actors and actresses get to be someone else. They get to change who they are and live a different life. They can get away from their miserable lives and become someone new. That's what we get to do.
Yeah, that library scene gets commented on a lot, and it's like they're doing it and she's doing it for human reasons. She's like, we get to just not live our normal awful lives for just one night, and we get to pretend to be people who matter, like you said, because her siblings are like, how can we identify with these people, these characters? And she's trying to say, these characters are, known and famous 2,000 years later, and we can partake in that. And then when it comes time to perform it, the power of the story and the miracle of the incarnation overwhelms them. And then in turn overwhelms everyone who's watching. Yeah. And it is a sacred moment in the book, and I hope it's a sacred moment in the film.
And we'll pause the conversation right there. Tomorrow we'll pick it back up as we continue with Dallas Jenkins. This is Haven Today. I'm David Wollen, and now on this Giving Tuesday, I want to invite you to make a difference. The world at large, the secular world, I might add, is making a big deal out of this day, and that's not a bad thing, depending on what the giving goes toward. But what matters more than pointing people to Jesus? And that's what Haven Today does in a unique way, daily on hundreds of radio stations and digital platforms. It's mass communication, yes, but to us, it's personal. And for those who listen, we know it's personal. We have a personal Savior who knows our names, who's intimately familiar with all of our ways, and even so came for us. And that's what Christmas is about. That's what Haven is about. And we have a budget gap to close by the end of the year. So would you help catapult Haven toward that goal today? And as you give, please let us know that you'd like to receive a DVD copy of The Greatest Christmas Pageant Ever. And truly, I want you and your family to see this film. I'd love for Haven to send it to you. So don't wait. Call us at 800-65-HAVEN. 800-65-HAVEN, or you can give online at haventoday.org, haventoday.org. I'm David Wollen. Won't you come back again next time? We'll be keeping it all about Jesus. It's the great story here on Haven Today.